Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu, and with me is Nishit Kumar, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. As the world fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of caution to stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assures India's continued support for a peaceful, united, stable Afghanistan. Signs MOU over Shatut Dam project. In a boost to sub-regional connectivity, India facilitates fertilizer export from Bangladesh to Nepal via Indian territory as traffic in transit. WHO mission to China to uncover the origins of the coronavirus inconclusive on the source of a pandemic. Protests against military government continue in Myanmar. Night curfew imposed in several Mandalay-based townships. Second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump begins in the US Senate. And in cricket, England beat India by 227 runs in Chennai Test. Prime Minister of India Mr. Narendra Modi and Afghan President Mr. Ashraf Ghani held a virtual summit today. Both the sides signed a memorandum of understanding on the construction of Shatut Dam project. The MOU was signed by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Foreign Minister of Afghanistan Hanif Atmar. The dam will meet the safe drinking water needs of Kabul city, provide irrigation water to nearby areas and also provide electricity to the region. The project is a part of the new development partnership between India and Afghanistan. This is the second major dam being built by India in Afghanistan after the India-Afghanistan Friendship Dam Salma Dam, which was inaugurated by the Prime Minister and the President in June 2016. Signing of the MOU on Shatut Dam is a reflection of India's strong and long-term commitment towards the socio-economic development of Afghanistan and the enduring partnership between the two countries.
आज हम काबुल में जिस सहतूत बांध के निर्माण पर समझौता कर रहे हैं, उसकी नींव सिर्फ ईंटों और मोर्टार पर नहीं बनेगी, बल्कि भारत अफगान दोस्ती की ताकत पर टिकी होगी। काबुल शहर भारत के लोगों के दिलो दिमाग में बसा है। मुझे विशेष खुशी है कि सहतूत बांध परियोजना से काबुल शहर के नागरिकों को पेयजल सुविधा प्रदान होगी। साथ साथ काबुल नदी बेसिन में एक सिंचाई नेटवर्क का विकास भी होगा।
Speaking on the occasion, Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted the civilizational relationship between India and Afghanistan and gave an assurance of India's continued support for a peaceful, united, stable, prosperous and inclusive Afghanistan. Mr. Modi said, in the last 2 decades, India has been one of the most prominent partners in the development of Afghanistan. He said the signing of MOU on Shatut Dam in Kabul is based on the strong friendship between the two countries.
कोई भी बाहरी ताकत अफगानिस्तान के विकास को या भारत अफगानिस्तान दोस्ती को रोक नहीं सकती। हमने हिंसा को तत्काल समाप्त करने का आह्वान किया है और हम फौरन एक व्यापक संघर्ष विराम का समर्थन करते हैं। हिंसा शांति का प्रतिकार है और दोनों साथ साथ नहीं चल सकते। एक निकट पड़ोसी और मजबूत स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनर के रूप में भारत और अफगानिस्तान दोनों ही अपने क्षेत्र को आतंकवाद और उग्रवाद जैसे भयंकर संकट से मुक्त देखना चाहते हैं। भारत एक ऐसी शांति प्रक्रिया का समर्थन करता रहा है जो अफगानिस्तान के नेतृत्व में हो, अफगानिस्तान के स्वामित्व में हो और अफगानिस्तान के नियंत्रण में हो।
India and Afghanistan have a strong relationship based on historical and cultural links. The relationship is founded on the historical contacts and exchanges between the people. India and Afghanistan relations have been further strengthened by the Strategic Partnership Agreement signed between the two countries in October 2011. A report.
The Strategic Partnership Agreement between the two sides provides for assistance to help rebuild Afghanistan's infrastructure and institutions, education and technical assistance, encouraging investment in Afghanistan's natural resources, and providing duty-free access to the Indian market for Afghanistan's exports, among others. India has always advocated an Afghan-led, Afghan-owned and broad-based and inclusive process of peace and reconciliation. India has also emphasized the need for a sustained and long-term commitment to Afghanistan by the international community. Over 3 decades of war have undermined Afghanistan's unique traditions of art and architecture. As part of India's restructuring program for Afghanistan, India has regularly aimed to take up projects that will render Afghanistan's cultural heritage sustainable. The Indian Cultural Centre has also been working towards building a shared cultural heritage. India's commitment to the people of Afghanistan was evident in India's recent gift of 500,000 doses of COVID vaccine shots to the country. The gesture was appreciated by the Afghan leadership and signalled a strong partnership between the two neighbours. Tanvi Thaneja for World News, All India Radio.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Joe Biden had a telephonic conversation yesterday. The leaders discussed regional issues and shared priorities. We have a report on the India-US relations.
The India-US relations have matured since India gained independence in 1947. The relations between both the countries have gone through various ups and downs. In the last 7 years, the relations have seen a new high. On Monday, 8th February, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to President Biden in a telephonic conversation. Both the leaders have laid emphasis on the strategic partnership to maintain peace and security in the Indo-Pacific. Both the leaders have also agreed to maintain a rule-based international order. In 2019, the overall India-US bilateral trade in goods and services reached $149 billion. US actively participated in the just concluded Aero India 2021 held in Bengaluru, which is a reflection of deepening India-US defense and strategic partnership. Not only this, US and Indian armies are currently participating in joint exercise Yudh Abhyas 20. In the telephonic conversation, both the leaders have agreed to further cooperate against climate change. Prime Minister Modi has also extended invitation to President Joe Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden to visit India. Diksha Saxena, News Desk.
In today's Hotspot segment, we are in conversation with international former India's ambassador to the United States of America and international affairs expert Meera Shankar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with the US President Joe Biden yesterday. What are your thoughts on the development?
Prime Minister Modi had a good conversation with President Joe Biden. The conversation reassured that the US would continue its policy of building on the strategic partnership with India in the Indo-Pacific, and that both would work together to try to promote a rules-based international order, particularly in this area. There are other issues on which the two countries will also work together, such as climate change and reviving global economic growth in the wake of the pandemic, cooperating in dealing with the pandemic and future health crises. So there are many issues on which India and the US need to work together.
How do you look at the prospects of India-US relations with the transition of power and the Biden-Harris administration assuming charge?
There is a strong bipartisan consensus in the US for building the relationship with India, and administrations of different political lineage, whether Democrats or Republicans, have both sought to build the relationship between the two countries. It should be no different under a Biden-Harris administration because there are increasingly converging interests as well as similar values that the two countries share.
US and India are global strategic partners. How do you see this aspect of our relationship developing?
India and the United States are global strategic partners, which means that we cooperate not only with regard to issues which are bilateral between the two countries or regional, but also on global issues such as climate change or the pandemic, which is currently still raging across the world. I see this global strategic partnership becoming stronger because India and the US need to work together if we are to get a handle on some of the major challenges such as terrorism which face the world.
The Indo-Pacific has assumed great significance in recent times. How do you look at the convergence or lack of it between India and US views in the region?
In the Indo-Pacific, both countries face the challenge of handling an increasingly assertive and sometimes even aggressive China. Both have concerns about China's behavior, but also they have equities in China, and the way they work together will shape how the balance in the Indo-Pacific will shape up in future.
The Indo-US trade relations saw a favorable phase under the Obama administration when Biden was the vice president. How do you foresee the trade relations to progress under Biden's presidency?
Trade relations between India and the US are growing, with the US being India's largest trading partner in goods and services. I see the trade relationship growing, and some of the frictions which were there under President Trump may continue, but I do not see the US having recourse to arbitrary action or unilateral measures as happened under Trump. There would be greater discussion and negotiation between the two countries. But I do see that the protectionism in the US, which we saw under President Trump, may continue because the constituencies which voted Trump to power are still there. Those left behind by globalization or who feel that they have not benefited from trade and economic openness.
We now have a woman of Indian origin in the White House. How do you think this affects the dynamics of the Indo-US relations, especially in terms of people-to-people ties?
Kamala Harris's ascension to the post of Vice President is historic. For the first time, there is a woman of part Indian origin in the White House and part African origin. And this is certainly something which is a landmark. I see Kamala Harris as being an American and therefore putting America's interests first in the way in which she shapes decisions. But she knows India intimately, and I think that will help to bring the people of the two countries closer.
Thank you so much for taking time out to lay out the broad contours of the Indo-US relations for our listeners. You were listening to former Ambassador of India to the US, Ms. Meera Shankar, speaking to All India Radio. In a big boost to sub-regional connectivity and cooperation, India facilitated the transit of fertilizer export from Bangladesh to Nepal via the Rohanpur-Singhabad rail route. The first train loaded with fertilizer for export to Nepal was handed over by Bangladesh Railways to Indian Railways last week. Presently, 27,000 metric tons of fertilizer will be exported to Nepal through the rail transit route. Another lot of 25,000 metric tons of fertilizer is likely to be exported subsequently. India and Bangladesh had signed an agreement in 1976 to allow for export of commodities from Bangladesh to Nepal and import from other countries to Nepal via Indian territory as traffic in transit. India has been providing the transit facility to Bangladesh exclusively for their exports and overland trade with Nepal. The transit in traffic through railways between Bangladesh and India is carried out via two crossing points at Rohanpur in Bangladesh to Singhabad in India and Berol in Bangladesh to Radhikapur in India railway route. This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
The WHO mission to China to uncover the origins of the coronavirus was inconclusive on the source of a pandemic. WHO foreign expert Peter Ben Embarek said identifying the animal pathway remains a work in progress, adding the absence of bats in the Wuhan area dimmed the likelihood of direct transmission. Liang Wanyan, head of the China side of the joint mission, said animal transmission remained the likely route, but the reservoir host remains to be identified.
For the cases detected in Wuhan, China, data was linked with the epidemiological background to select samples from cases with illness onset before December 31st. The final analysis shows that several of the cases with exposure to Huanan market had identical virus genomes, suggesting these can be part of a cluster.
We are now joined by Prasar Bharati correspondent from Beijing with more on the development. Anshuman, can you please sum up the key points at today's press conference by WHO?
WHO team probed 4 hypotheses around the transmission of coronavirus to human population and concluded that most likely scenario of introduction of the virus to humans is through an intermediary host species. Other possibilities being direct transmission from animals to humans, transmission from frozen food to humans, and possibility of a leakage from lab. WHO team dismissed the possibility of the laboratory-related incident, saying that findings suggest that the laboratory hypothesis is extremely unlikely to explain the introduction of the virus to humans. Other hypotheses need future studies. WHO team was jointly working with the Chinese scientists on the data collected by them and today completed their nearly 1-month-long investigations in Wuhan.
So how do we look at it and what can be expected further from this?
Well, the animal source of the pandemic could not be identified. WHO team said that a lot of targeted studies are required for origin tracing, as was the case with other outbreaks like Ebola, SARS, etc., which are still not clear. The team found no evidence that the disease was spreading widely any earlier than the initial outbreak in the second half of December 2019 in Wuhan. Also, the joint Chinese WHO team has not found any evidence of the leakage from a lab, which was a highly debated theory. So now they will try to link the data points collected during this visit, which they considered as initial step. And we need to wait for final report of WHO team, which may take some time.
India's Health Ministry has said that over 6.3 million beneficiaries have received COVID-19 vaccines so far since the launch of the vaccination drive on 16th of January this year. Addressing the media in New Delhi, Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan said that these beneficiaries include healthcare workers and frontline workers who were administered the first dose of COVID-19 vaccines. He also informed the administration of the second dose to the beneficiaries will start from the 13th of February.
63 लाख से ज्यादा लाभान्वितों को वैक्सीन की डोजेज दी जा चुकी हैं। जब हम कहते हैं कि 63 लाख से ज्यादा लाभान्वित, तो इसका अर्थ है कि ये वो हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स हैं और फ्रंटलाइन वर्कर्स हैं। 63,10,194 जिनको की पहला डोज वैक्सीन का दिया गया है। दूसरा डोज हम 13 फरवरी से देना प्रारंभ करेंगे।
Health Secretary said India is the fastest country to reach 6 million vaccination in just 24 days, while USA took 26 days and UK took 46 days to reach this level. On the second day of the nationwide COVID-19 vaccination program, 46,500 people took the vaccine shots across Bangladesh on Monday. With this, the total number of people vaccinated over the last 2 days has crossed 77,600. Considering low than the planned number of vaccinations, the government has relaxed the age bar for registering for the vaccine. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina asked the authorities to reduce the minimum age for registering for the corona vaccine from 55 to 40 to expand the vaccination program. Iran launched its coronavirus vaccination campaign on Tuesday as the country seeks to curb the outbreak of the virus. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani kicked off the campaign by paying tribute to the health workers who lost their lives due to COVID-19 during a ceremony at a Tehran hospital, in a ceremony broadcast by state television. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
3 steps to stay protected and stay safe from COVID-19. Wear face mask, 2 gaz ki duri to maintain social distancing, maintain hand and face hygiene.
In the United States, the second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump begins tonight as Senate leaders agreed to a rapid timetable. The former president is charged with inciting insurrection in a speech to supporters ahead of the deadly riot at the U.S. Capitol on 6th of January. Democrats said they have overwhelming evidence of his guilt, while his defense team claimed writers acted independently. The defense called the trial absurd and unconstitutional, and its legality will be a focus tonight. Mr. Trump is the only U.S. president in history to have been impeached twice and one of only 3 to have been impeached at all. If convicted, he could be barred from holding office again. but two-thirds of the 100-seat Senate is required to convict. Democrats hold 50 seats and there is little sign enough Republicans will join. Protests against the military government in Myanmar continued on Tuesday as people gathered in large numbers in many towns of the country. According to the reports, the Myanmar police fired water cannons against protesters in the capital Naypyidaw on Tuesday morning. Protests are taking place in many other places in the country on the fourth day after the military takeover on February 1st. In Mandalay, the night-time curfew was imposed in 7 townships. Restrictions on gathering of people were also imposed in many townships in Yangon region, Sagaing region, Bago Township in Bago region and Airyawadi region. In a statement issued by the Ministry of Information on Monday, the Myanmar government warned people of legal action for acts that are violating state stability, public safety and rule of law. Meanwhile, the United Nations in Myanmar has expressed strong concern at reports of use of force on Tuesday by security forces against demonstrators. Citing reports from the capital city, Naypyidaw, Mandalay and other cities in which numerous demonstrators have been injured, some of them seriously by security forces, the UN resident coordinator in Myanmar said that use of disproportionate force against the demonstrators is unacceptable. It called upon the security forces to respect human rights and fundamental freedoms, including the right to peaceful assembly and freedom of expression.
Germany, Poland and Sweden on Monday expelled Russian diplomats in their countries. Last week, Russia had made a similar move by dismissing diplomats of Poland, Germany and Sweden from Moscow. Germany declared a member of Russian embassy in Berlin a persona non grata. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry of Germany declaring an employee of the Russian embassy in Berlin as persona non grata said that Russia expelled several EU diplomats, including one at the German embassy, and the decision was not justified in any way. The statement added that the German diplomat was merely carrying out his task of reporting on developments on the spot in a legal fashion. Meanwhile, Moscow hit back at expulsions, calling the decision unfounded. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova, speaking on the state channel, said that the decision by Poland, Germany and Sweden are unfounded, unfriendly and are a continuation of the interference in Russia's internal affairs. Hong Kong's apex court denied bail to Jimmy Lai, who is charged under a new national security law from China on Tuesday. Beijing had imposed a sweeping national security law on the former British colony last June. Lai has been in custody since December 3rd last year, except for a period of about a week when he was granted bail. He was brought back into custody on December 31st after hearing that followed an appeal from the Hong Kong government. According to reports, the Court of Final Appeal CFA judges on Tuesday said the lower court that bail Lai had applied an erroneous line of reasoning.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the World Sustainable Development Summit 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time tomorrow via video conferencing. The theme of the summit is redefining our common future, safe and secure environment for all. The 20th edition of the Energy and Resources Institute's TERI flagship event, the World Sustainable Development Summit, will be held online from 10th to 12th February. The summit will bring together a wide number of governments, business leaders, academicians, climate scientists, youth and the civil society in the fight against climate change. Energy and industry transition, adaptation and resilience, nature-based solutions, climate finance, circular economy, clean oceans and air pollution are amongst the range of topics to be discussed during the summit. The Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy and Ministry of Earth Sciences are key partners of the summit. Legendary French novelist, screenwriters and actors Jean-Claude Carrière has died at the age of 89. Mr. Carrière had penned some memorable movies of the last half-century, including The Tin Drum and Cyrano de Bergerac. He was awarded with Padma Shri for scripting a magnificent 9-hour stage adaptation of the Mahabharata epic. Noted actor Kamal Haasan tweeted, "I will miss my young friend always." Let us celebrate the life of Mr. Carrière by commemorating his speech at the honorary award at the 2014 Governors Awards at the Oscars.
Thank you so much to everybody, and thank you, Phil, for what you said and what you gave me. He has already said what I wanted to say first, that today it's my daughter's Iris' birthday, which is a strange coincidence. So allow me to say, Iris, bon anniversaire.
Benchmark domestic stocks today fell marginally, snapping 6 sessions rally of gains amid mixed global cues. The BSE Sensex and the NSE Nifty lost gains of afternoon session due to fag and profit booking. Brent crude prices hit 13-month high amid optimism over a recovery in fuel demand. A report from the Business World.
Sensex fell by 20 points of 0.04% to trade at 15,329. The NSE Nifty also slipped by 7 points or 0.04% to trade at 15,109. The broader market at the BSE also declined, underperforming the Sensex. BSE Mid-Cap Index fell by 0.18% and the BSE Small Cap Index depreciated by 0.26%. In the global equity market, Asian stocks were mixed, even as the 3 major U.S. stock indices hit all-time closing highs yesterday. China's Shanghai Composite Index climbed 2%, while Japan's Benchmark Index and Hong Kong's Hang Seng both logged gains of around 0.5%. Singapore's Straits Times and South Korea's Kospi both fell marginally by up to 0.2%. In the oil market, Brent crude prices rose to the highest since January last year. And in the foreign exchange market, the rupee appreciated by 8 paise to trade at 72 rupees and 89 paise against the US dollar. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, All India Radio.
Moving on to sports. In cricket, England have won the first test against India by 227 runs at the M.H. Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai today. Chasing a 420-run target, India were bundled out for 192 runs in the second innings as wickets fell like 9 pins to some great reverse swing by James Anderson, who took 3 wickets for 17, and fine spin bowling by Jack Leach, who took 4 wickets for 76 runs. The second test match between India and England, scheduled to begin from 13th to 17th of this month in the iconic M.H. Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai. Though the first match was closed to spectators, the second match is open for 50% audience. The stadium has a total capacity of around 38,000 seats. A report.
The online ticket sales for the second test match for the general public was done only through online platforms. The decision for opening the match to spectators was taken after the government has allowed 50% seating capacity for stadiums. There was no counter or box office sales for the match. The daily ticket prices ranged from 100 rupees to 200. This is the first time since 2012 that I, J and K stands will be thrown open to public for an international match. Due to COVID regulations, face masks and the social distancing have been made mandatory. Joy for World News from Chennai.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world. As reported in the foreign press, the New York Times reports that at least 14 people died in 7 avalanches in the U.S. during the first week of February. Wall Street Journal writes that Hawaii files a lawsuit disputing allegations that the company is a security threat to the U.S. A quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assures India's continued support for a peaceful, united, stable Afghanistan. Signs MOU over Shartooth Dam project. In a boost to sub-regional connectivity, India facilitates fertilizer export from Bangladesh to Nepal via Indian territory as traffic in transit. WHO mission to China to uncover the origins of the coronavirus inconclusive on the source of a pandemic. Protests against military government continue in Myanmar. Night curfew imposed in several Mandalay-based townships. Second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump begins in the US Senate. And in cricket, England beat India by 227 runs in Chennai Tests. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Afghanistan.
Vaishnav Jan to tene kahe je veed parai jaane re par dukh ke upkar kare to man abhiman naane re.
And with that, we end this bulletin. See you at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.